Hello everyone and welcome to the final day of the 2025 CRIG Seminar, Open Doors, Open Minds, Shaping Inclusive Library Futures. My name is Ines Sincock and I am an Academic Services Librarian at Monash University Library. I'm also a member of the CRIG Seminar Working Group, which has planned the seminar and has been jointly facilitating it. It's been a wonderful couple of days and we have an exciting wrap up for you all today. As we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands across Australia where we live, learn and work. We acknowledge and celebrate the inherent strengths of Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and other First Nations peoples and communities and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, sky and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. I would also like to welcome and extend my respects to First Nations peoples attending today. I am joining you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. If you have followed our seminar promotion on LinkedIn over the past month, you will be familiar with the Raven mascot competition, which will have its conclusion today. One inspiration behind choosing the Raven as our seminar mascot stems from its deep cultural significance to the Aboriginal peoples of the Kulin Nations. The Raven or crow, known as Wā, is one of two principal social moieties or totems in this region. Wā is both a creator figure and a trickster, and alongside Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, plays a vital role as an ancestral spirit. These totems are central to the identity and social structure of the people of the Kulin Nations, whose country spans what is now central Victoria and home to many of Caval's member institutions. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you have any technical questions during the session, please type them into the chat and the Caval team will assist you. The chat is also the space to connect to others today. You can share your reflections and thoughts on anything raised in the presentations. At a virtual event like this, the digital chat plays an amazing role as a connector and thought stimulus. However, if you find the chat distracting, you're welcome to not engage with it, or you can open it in a separate window and hide it behind something else. I would like to acknowledge and thank our neurodivergent attendees and those with visible and invisible disabilities for being here today. Throughout the webinar, you are welcome to take breaks, stim, use assistive tech, or interact in whatever way supports your comfort and focus. You can always drop a sunflower emoji in the chat to indicate engagement if you are off camera. You are all welcome to engage with the content on social media. The CRIG Seminar Working Group will be using LinkedIn and the hashtag CRIG2025. If you have questions for the speakers throughout this webinar, please submit them through the Zoom Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window, and we will get to as many as possible during the Q&A segments. Through the Q&A function, you can also see the questions of others, upvote questions, and add comments to existing questions as appropriate. The questions in the Q&A function will be refreshed for each presentation. Today's event will comprise a short presentation, 2 lightning talks, and a concluding keynote. Before the final presentation, we will also crown the winner of the Raven mascot competition by popular vote. The presentations and the keynote will have their own Q&A segments, while the lightning talks will share a quick Q&A segment. Throughout the webinar, I will be joined by fellow CRIG Seminar Working Group members to help me with the facilitation. They will be introduced as we move along. And now I am very excited to introduce today's first speakers, RMIT University Library colleagues, Dr Lisa Cianci, Manager, Library Digital Learning, and Karl Ervine, Senior Specialist, Digital Learning Resources, are joining us to explain how their digital learning team is spearheading RMIT's Learning Objects Repository project. On behalf of everyone here today, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Lisa and Karl. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today. I'm going to just jump right into it. And so you probably want to know what the Learning Objects Repository actually is. We like to call it the law, just to make it easier. It's quite a mouthful. And it's a digital space and a shared home for digital learning resources and assets created by our learning and teaching community. So that's educators, learning designers, digital media development teams, and other people across the university. The law is not just a library project, it's an RMIT-wide capability that underpins how we want to deliver learning in the years to come. It's a strategic and deliverable part of RMIT's 10-year education plan also. RMIT, as you might already know, is a very large dual sector university. And just as quick examples, we know we have way more than 100,000 SharePoint sites at RMIT. And SharePoint is not a CMS. Content located there is notoriously hard to find and share and to manage sustainably. Also, Canvas, our LMS, is mostly not open access. Canvas Commons is not very accessible either, and good content gets lost all the time in old course shells and discontinued programs. And there are many other types of systems in use across the digital ecosystem, which your universities and institutions may have the same issues. So with this system we're creating, the library is keeping its collections relevant by capturing more diverse types of learning resources. And then we do what is core to the library. We share it all openly. The repository ensures good work is captured, centralised and discoverable. And because of this, duplication of effort and storage can be reduced too. We've seen launch and leave approaches to technology solutions in the past, and we've taken a different approach with the law right from the beginning. We've spent time building the community around this project and socialising its value even before we started developing a tech solution. We've sought consultation with key creators and stakeholders of learning resources to identify all the pain points, which we're finding are common across the institution and beyond. And now we're doing the work of building something practical and usable. And the project is now coming out of pilot, and we're progressing this as an enterprise solution. So this year we've been building the law, and openness invites possibility. Libraries are spaces where openness is both philosophy and practice. And we're building a connected lifelong learning system that aims to give our educators and students access to the best learning experiences created at RMIT. Our strategic aims and values are to advance equitable access to knowledge through open scholarship and open pedagogy. We promote open always, but we also recognise that some content may have restrictions for different reasons, so we manage this too. We want to support inclusive, accessible and culturally safe digital content. A sound metadata schema and considered user experience design enable this. We want to promote ethical creation, management and sharing of learning resources. Our library collection development framework and digital preservation roadmap provide the structures to work within. And we want to build confidence across the university in sustainable creation and reuse of digital learning objects by building a community of practice, changing culture, and also taking stakeholder feedback on board to continuously improve. And we work in an agile way to do this. So why are we building it? The university produces a growing volume of quality digital learning resources, but many of these are fragmented, hard to find, hard to reuse, and they're isolated, invisible, or locked in local systems. So the law enables a way of rethinking digital content as shared knowledge assets, moving us from departmental silos to a university-wide network of shared resources. Great resources can spark the creation of other great resources if you can see them. The law creates a trusted, transparent ecosystem for digital content, celebrating great work that comes from the university and celebrating and centering the creators of that content too. So as you can see on the screen, we're building the pilot and MVP, which has happened in 2025, and now has workflows that streamline appraisal, ingest, and reuse. We have a discovery platform that makes digital learning objects visible and accessible from multiple hosting and storage locations. We have a metadata framework that supports sharing and integration with library search and our Canvas LMS, and asset management integrated into the resource lifecycle. We are working with the messy reality of ungoverned digital practices. So resources used in teaching and learning have no governance, but are part of the core business of the university. So that's an interesting proposition. But this is a challenge we actually like. We want to improve sustainability and access, but not block or control creativity in making engaging and meaningful content. We use structured metadata and workflows to ensure asset management is optimal at the back end. But it's the front-end experience of discovery and use that has been the most important aspect of this project. A discovery interface that enables reuse across courses, portfolios, and colleges is what will keep users coming back to reuse and integrate in curriculum. There is an element of productivity gain here too, reducing duplication, improving version control, and making resources easier to find and maintain. And this also reduces technical debt in the future. The library is positioned to lead this digital transformation project because we have expertise in metadata, accessibility, digital preservation, and knowledge management. And some of the challenges that we have faced this year include aligning workflows across complex organizational structures, getting the metadata right, especially for things like rights, licensing, and attribution, navigating accessibility requirements with diverse content types, addressing cultural sensitivities and ensuring respectful representation and presentation, building review and lifecycle processes. There's not a single digital learning object that goes into the law without a review date, a current custodian, and a plan for management over time. We have many, many legacy resource cautionary tales to tell. We're also developing documentation and standards to scaffold sustainable practice, and we're trying to manage expectations and change fatigue. So we use all these challenges that we have faced this year in developing this project as opportunities for reflection and growth. We're always trying to balance innovation work with the practical realities of workload capacity and legacy systems. Innovation often surfaces tensions, but it also reveals new pathways. Our collaborative approach, working with stakeholders across the university, has led to many partnerships to rescue and make discoverable all kinds of wonderful resources. Sadly, I don't have time to tell you all about them today, but they're many and varied. However, we have found that there are many valuable learning resources of all kinds of formats and complexities that are currently at risk in both internal and external digital environments. These resources have had a lot of money and time poured into their development, but they now need a safekeeping place and a means of discovery and integration into curriculum, and then management over time. So opening minds is not just for students, but it's for educators and all knowledge workers as well. And the innovation doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in community. Co-designing solutions encourages cultural change in digital resource-making practices. And as you can see up on the screen, these collaborations have sparked new thinking about how content is created, how students engage with digital materials, how inclusive and culturally responsible design can be embedded successfully. And the best way to see this is for me now to hand over to Karl for a walkthrough of the law.
Thank you, Lisa. So as you can see, there are two sides to the Learning Objects repository. We have a process-driven brain, where we hold the metadata and the workflows, and where our curators manage the content. And we also have a customer-facing discovery portal that allows them to access that brain and the resources. So this is where we bring structure to the messy reality Lisa mentioned of digital objects, while still supporting the creativity and discoverability. Now, the easiest way to demonstrate the law is through a story. So I'm going to share my screen and introduce you to Sage. And I believe on screen we can see Sage. So Sage is an educator at RMIT, and they are preparing to refresh a module on atomic structure. So she wants her students to have something more interactive than a PDF or PowerPoint. Ideally, she's looking for a short quiz or an animation that the students can explore before class. Sage doesn't know what's out there already, and she doesn't have time to make materials from scratch. So that's where she opens up the Learning Objects repository. So this is where Sage begins her search, and it's her front door to the objects that we've collected so far. So at a quick glance, Sage can see that there is a search. There is a carousel of predefined collections, some featured learning objects, as well as some additional content about the website and how to use it. Now, seeing as this is Sage's first experience of the website, like a typical user, in this instance, she's just looking at the top navigation. So home, browse, collections, about. There is a search icon in the top right, as well as a settings icon. Sage, in this instance, clicks on collections. And when she lands on the collections page, she can see a high-level snapshot of some high-level collections of the objects that we have so far. This includes their title, a description, and the number of learning objects. So it's easy for her to scan what's relevant. Now, currently, we've grouped these via school or college. but collections could instead be based on a taxonomy, a theme, or completely custom grouping. Now, Sage, instead of looking at collections, has decided that she wants to click on Browse to see what that holds. So when she lands on that page, she can see a list of all the objects we've currently collected. Again, being the inquisitive mind that she is, she notices that on the right-hand side, we have a filter section where she can start looking at different elements or different variations of those objects. So perhaps in this instance, she clicks on video and just gets video objects back. Perhaps she wants to refine that search and maybe look for academic writing videos. So she can refine those objects down further. And she can see her current active filters for what she's looking for. She can clear those objects. And perhaps she wants to just find objects that can be embedded into Canvas, embedded into a different LMS, or embedded on a website. So she can easily just filter to find objects that have embed code with them. Now, if I recall correctly, Sage was looking for atomic structures. That is a chemistry-based object. So if I search for chemistry, she can also search by different search terms to bring objects back up. So we can see we've got 8 objects here. If Sage wanted to, they could change the look and feel of how they view the objects, change the sort. What's really important, I guess, is the information we're giving back at this level, which is just a simple object card. So there is a thumbnail representation of the object. We have a high-level metadata classification of the object type visible. We also include metadata of the subjects related to that object, as well as a title and a meta description. You'll see in the right-hand corner, we have some icons. This particular icon illustrates that we have 2 accessibility features that have been noted for this object, but we have up to 4 icons that can live there that cover content warnings, cultural sensitivity notices, as well as a way to highlight and flag Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander content and knowledges. Now, we were looking for atomic structures. Here we go. So Sage has found something that seems highly relevant to her, oddly enough. She clicks through and she lands on that object's landing page where she can see everything she needs to know about that object to decide whether or not it's a good fit. So we have a nice clear description, as well as outlining what the learning objectives are, any prerequisites for the object, and any key features that we want to call out. We have some high-level tags, but this is where that brain starts to come into it about that metadata that we've collected. So from an educational point of view, we can see the subjects it relates to, the educational level the object might be for, the instructional method that fits this object the best, as well as the resource type. If we jumped into the Origin tab, we can see who created it, who contributed to it, who the custodian is, and where and when it was created. Perhaps from a technical point of view, might be interested for Sage to know how big the file size is, or the extent of the object, or the platform or object type. And where things become a bit more fun is when we start looking at relationships of objects. So as we can see here, this particular object is in a relationship and related to other quizzes, H5P quizzes about chemistry. So Sage can start seeing the relationship and finding other similar content to also potentially include in future. And we have quite a few different ways objects can relate to each other. And that's another great kind of option for discovery. In our final tab of our metadata, we list the usage and rights. So being able to understand the license type, the rights holder, and having an attribution there is something that we think is very important. Now, on the object card, I mentioned that we had an icon that listed accessibility features. So on the right-hand side here, you can see those accessibility features that we called out. So this particular object is keyboard accessible and screen reader accessible. And this is where we would keep those other notices. So the content warnings and the cultural sensitivity warnings. So by landing on this page, Sage can get a good understanding of what the object is, some educational metadata around it and some technical metadata. But there's one final thing that Sage can do probably to get a test to see if the object is a great fit, and that's to interact with the object. So having live previews of the objects we feel is a great addition, which allows Sage to really make a call and evaluate all the resources and knowledge to see whether or not this is a really good fit. Now, let's say in this instance that Sage has decided this is perfect, and she wants to use it in her Canvas course. So the repository gives her a direct link if she wanted to link externally to it. But we also provide the ability to embed the object right from the Learning Objects repository. So we provide the code to do that. And it's very similar to anyone who's ever used YouTube. You get an embed code. So we give them the option to copy that. And we also include instructions on how to use that embed code. Different objects have different needs. So we do handle all of that here to reduce the number of clicks for our educators. So in this instance, Sage found what she was looking for. So perhaps she wants to explore some other different types of objects that we have within the repository. So this is a great example of a video object, but also an example of how we mask content under different scenarios. So I mentioned that we have the accessibility features notices. On screen, we can see that this example has a content warning, as well as a cultural sensitivity notice. Now, as a result, we've masked the visibility of this object, but the user can click to kind of reveal that if they need, but they have all the context around the other part of the object to make that decision. So as before, we can interact with the object. Sage could run through, watch the video, and decide whether or not that's the right fit for them. But what about for other odd sorts of objects? So recently we've been getting a variety of AI-related objects, in particular prompts. And this is part of an object that's been developed by our College of Vocational Education. And it is a gallery wall critique prompt. So we store that as a text file that doesn't have any markup or anything to it. And what's interesting about this particular object is that relationships. So we're starting to kind of nest objects together and show how they relate to each other. So there's a bit of fun to be explored there. In the case of other objects that don't necessarily have something that can be previewed or interacted with, the food bank game by the College of Business and Law at MIT is a really great example as well. So this is an executable. It's not something that we're ever going to be able to preview necessarily, but it is something that a direct link makes sense, that the educator or the student can download and install to run it. So what do we do on our end to add that context? We embed a video of the gameplay to give that additional bit of information so the educator can see how it works. So there's some examples of some other object types. But let's say, for instance, down the lines, Sage wants to embed a more complex object into her course material. So on the sidelines of this, we've been developing something that we're referring to as learning object wrappers. And so these open up the possibility to expand what a learning object is, the information that travels with it as well. So this is an example of a 3D object that's been wrapped for reuse. So it can be interacted with. We've built some additional controls that go with it. And you can see that there is a title as well as an attribution for this particular example. And this is centralized. So this object is stored in the Learning Objects repository in one spot. And what that does is allow anyone to reference it using an embed code. So the same as the other objects. We've handled the wrapper to show and display the object. We've given the embed code, and it follows the same process as all of our other objects. So in this instance, Sage could jump into Canvas. If anyone's used Canvas before, this is a typical Canvas shell. I've gone into the rich text editor, into the HTML view and pasted it in. And when I view that page, I can see the object and interact with it the same way that I could in the Learning Objects repository. So it's complete, it has all the controls, and all of that was in one simple embed. Underneath it, I actually have an example of a different video object that's been wrapped the same way. But the difference is this has added context. It has a transcript that runs with it and is stored with the object itself. It has that attribution that belongs to the object, and all of that information travels wherever it goes. So this means that when educators like Sage embeds in Canvas, she's not embedding content, she's embedding accessibility, context, and proper acknowledgement as part of the object itself. Now, we know that when you open doors, you also open new pathways for discovery. So in our scenario, Sage visited the Learning Objects repository portal to find her objects. But as Lisa mentioned, in future integrations and LTI integrations, Sage will be able to pull this object in straight from Canvas itself via a button similar to these in the rich text editor. And in addition to that, as Lisa mentioned, we're also looking to integrate into library search. So a new learning object type will be added that uses our rich metadata that aligns with the existing metadata of our resources so they can be found alongside other traditional resources. So from a simple search to a ready to embed resource, Sage has found, assessed, reused a high quality object in under 5 minutes. And that's the story of Sage's journey with the Learning Objects repository. I'll pass back now to Lisa to talk through what's next.
So what's next? Building the repository is not just a technical solution or project. It is a cultural shift. And the law aims to encourage a mindset of openness by embedding instead of duplicating, designing for reuse instead of one-off production, and thinking about learning content as shared assets rather than private files. So looking forward, we're scaling this from pilot to enterprise. There is ongoing development of process, interface design, user experience testing, and iterative improvement. The long-term vision is for open, accessible, ethical, discoverable learning content created at RMIT. In closing, we like to think about what an open future might look like in the library. We want to expand what libraries can do in open education. We want to work towards a university where educators discover and reuse high quality resources effortlessly. We want a community that creates inclusive, accessible, culturally safe content by default. And we want students to encounter consistent, high quality digital learning materials across disciplines. And finally, we want a library-led model for open pedagogy that supports experimentation, creativity, and global knowledge sharing. And that's all we've got. We've got a QR code here, which you can scan that will take you to a webpage where we have a lot of information about this project. It also has some contact details for me and Karl and our Associate Director, Jack Dunstan, and the three of us have, I guess, been leading this project for a while now. So feel free to contact us all. And that's all we have for today. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. And that was very interesting, actually, and looks like a really robust system. As you mentioned, we've had quite a few questions in the Q&A. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to too many of them, but I'll start at the top. So the first question is, what does the appraisal process look like when deciding which resources should be included in the law? If a resource is submitted, is it automatically added?
I think my answer to this might answer a few of the questions in the Q&A actually, because this is a curated platform. It's not just, you don't just put anything in there. It's not just for all the things. And so we have a collection criteria and a collection policy that's in development. So we actually have a curator role that works with the creators or the custodians of these resources. And so a decision is made whether they're suitable for the repository or not. And we go through a process where we collect a whole range of contextual metadata about the object with those people. Sometimes that doesn't happen with legacy resources because people have left and we've lost that institutional knowledge. Like we kind of do the best we can, but if it's current content, then we're really able to collect, really good quality resources and, stuff relating to the educational usage, stuff relating to accessibility and its usage. And there was a question about cultural safety. Obviously, we don't do anything unless it's in consultation. And that's why we have all those flags and markers in there too. So that was a question further down, I think, about cultural safety. So hopefully that answers that. It's curated, and we have levels of access as well. Things can be open publicly, internal to RMIT, or restricted as well. So we do have measures in place to make sure it's all perfectly safe. So I hope that answers a few questions.
I think it does. Yeah. And how many people are working on this? Has it been? It seems pretty full on to curate all of that.
It's a very small team at the moment.
Yeah.
The digital learning team, we're a very small team, and we work on a number of things at once. And Mostly in the development, it's been Karl and I this year, but we've had other people in our team helping, and we've had a metadata expert from our collections part of the library seconded to our team for the last couple of months, working through a lot of the metadata issues and the integration with library search, and that's been really fantastic. That's been awesome. So it's been a process, but we need more roles. When all the stuff comes next year, like there'll be a lot of content coming our way, we need roles for inventory people, cataloging people, metadata people to help with that. Yeah.
Might just have one more possibly, but the next one's more technical. What system are you using? Was it built in-house or did you purchase a product?
Do you want to answer that one, Karl?
There are two parts to this project. So there is that brain. So we're using a SaaS system at the moment called PhotoWare, which we're using to store the metadata of the content. The front end of the website, however, is not that. It's a custom built front end that via APIs talk to each other. And so we have a custom front end that we can build and have freedom basically to make it as accessible and easy for us to change while having all that great knowledge stored in PhotoWare and its processes that allow us to kind of store that and update and keep those objects relevant and current.
And there's also a back end, there are a lot of storage places for these resources, but we're working on a technical infrastructure back end as well for different kinds of storage too. So there are a lot of parts.
Awesome. Unfortunately, I think that's all we have time for. But thank you so much for answering the questions and presenting. I'm going to now pass over to my colleague, Jenny Luty, Librarian, Library Education and Research at Southern Cross University, for the lightning talk segment of today's webinar. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Inez. It's great to have a curious audience and so many questions. So yeah, keep the questions coming in the Q&A, and maybe include which lightning talk the question is for to help me with the Q&A afterwards. That would be really good. So first up for our lightning talks, we will explore object-based learning as a powerful strategy to foster inclusion, critical thinking, and interdisciplinary engagement with Deakin University Libraries' Dominique Coorey, Coordinator, Library Public Programs, and Cait Burgoyne, Acting Curator, Library Exhibitions. Welcome, Dominique and Cait.
Hi, everyone. And thank you for joining us for our lightning talk on object-based learning. My name is Dominique Coorey, and I'm one of the public programs coordinators at Deakin University Library. And I'm joined by Cait Burgoyne, our curator, Library Exhibitions. Object-based learning, or OBL, is the practice of teaching through direct interaction with physical or digital objects. It has long been used by museum educators because it creates deeper, more memorable learning. As a pedagogical approach, OBL blends active and experiential learning, encouraging learners to observe, analyse, discuss, and reflect through structured, often collaborative inquiry routines. Its impact can be transformative. At Deakin Library, we see OBL as the perfect way to engage our university community and invite them into our library spaces to interact with our rich collections and exhibitions. We collaborate with our academics to deliver unique and complementary learning experiences through OBL programs. And today we'd like to share some recent OBL experiences we have facilitated and talk about what's coming next.
Excellent. Thank you, Dom. Thought we might start actually with the OBL session that we've completed most recently, in fact, earlier this week. And that was working with our architecture students, focusing on the McGlashan Everest archive. So across 2 OBL sessions, our architecture students worked directly with the McGlashan Everest archival drawings in the Special Collections Library. Our goal was to help them build confidence in reading, questioning, and interpreting architectural archives as active design tools. In the first session, students were introduced to the archival material. After a behind-the-scenes tour, students investigated drawings from the Aspendale House and Canning House, using routines such as 5x2 and See Wonder Connect, which are drawn from Project Zero frameworks. This is something that was developed by Harvard Graduate School of Education. They slowed down, observed closely, and began forming their own questions. We also gave a brief history of McGlashan Everest, which helped them revisit the drawings with new context. The session ended with reflection on what surprised them and what they wanted to explore next. Session 2 moved into a deeper comparative work. Students examined 4 objects, 2 houses, or 4 projects rather, 2 houses, the Institute of Educational Administration, and a merchant builders project. At each station, we used the different Project Zero routines, including layers, circle of viewpoint, parts, purpose, complexities, and same, different, connect, and engage. These routines encouraged thinking about narrative, design logic, structure, stakeholder views, and historical context. Through rotating between stations, students built a more complete picture of McGlashan Everest's design approach. We concluded with a group discussion, an Imagine If activity, in which they interpreted the projects for today and the development of their own inquiry-driven research questions. Across both sessions, students shifted from passive viewers to active interpreters of architectural archives, connecting historical practices with contemporary design thinking. And something which maybe, it seems entirely different in theme, was the Year 10 immersion program. And this is curating Roots of Resilience. So Deacon's Engagement and Access program, DEEP, supports students who might not otherwise see university as a part of their future. Each year, it brings Year 10 students from rural southwest Victoria to our Warrnambool campus for an immersive experience. This year, their experience was enriched by the Deakin 50th exhibition, Roots of Resilience, which celebrated the history of the Warrnambool campus. So after a curator-led tour, the students were invited to redesign the exhibition themselves. So they used floor plans, movable parts, and replica objects. They reimagined a layout, colour, and interpretation, and then presented their concepts to each other. This hands-on activity helped them connect with local history, learn about curatorial practice, and explore creative career possibilities. The exhibition team created an inclusive, empowering learning experience that really resonated with the students. And as our final example of what we have been up to with OBL recently is our Anamkara Geelong art therapy sessions with medical students. Our exhibition, The Garden We Grew, Anamkara Geelong, actually opens next week, which is very exciting. And it shines a light on the powerful role of creativity in care settings, especially in palliative care. The exhibition presents a body of work created by day guests at Anamkara through the art therapy program led by art therapist and Deakin alumna Lucy Ray. So as part of the exhibition program, Deakin medical students joined workshops with Lucy Ray and pastoral carer Jo Betts. Through guided neurographic drawing and reflective practice, they experienced firsthand how art therapy can open communication, support emotional expression, and encourage more holistic approaches to end-of-life care. It gave them a meaningful insight into how creative practice intersects with compassion, connection, and the lived experience of patients.
We also design OBL for staff. One example is Curate This, a playful but immersive program we delivered to library staff where they worked in teams to develop an exhibition concept using a mystery artifact with a fabricated backstory. Each team was also assigned a curatorial challenge and a program development constraint to integrate into their idea. The session culminated in elevator pitch presentations. Staff enjoyed the opportunity to think creatively with real objects, learn about the curatorial process, and better understand the work of the exhibitions and public programs team. So what's coming up next? We are currently developing a new exhibition based on the remarkable folk toy collection of Dr June Factor, Australia's leading scholar of children's play and folklore. June co-founded the Australian Children's Folklore Collection, which is recognised as a national treasure by UNESCO. This exhibition will highlight the cultural and emotional significance of handmade toys while creating opportunities for cross-disciplinary collaboration at Deakin, particularly with the School of Psychology and its work on play therapy. We are developing an OBL session where students will handle the toys and explore how play supports emotional well-being and communication in therapeutic contexts. This experience will link academic theory with real-world practice and celebrate June Factor's extraordinary contribution to the study of childhood.
So these examples show how OBL can transform learning, whether for students considering university, students studying architecture or medicine, or our own staff. Through direct engagement with objects, archives, and artworks, we help our community think critically, creatively, and collaboratively. So thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more OBL experiences with you in the future.
Thank you, Dominique and Cait, for sharing your experiences and how you use object-based learning. That was really interesting, very creative. Next up, we will hear Lightning talk about a STEM library hub at the University of Melbourne. Ellen O'Hare, Liaison Librarian Science, Engineering and IT, and Aimee Clague, Liaison Librarian Medicine, Dentistry and Health Sciences, will tell us all about it. Over to you, Ellen and Aimee.
Thanks, Jenny. Today we're going to talk about creating a Canvas template that we designed with a strong emphasis on accessibility.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of the unceded lands that we're presenting from, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. We pay respects to elders past and present and acknowledge the importance of Indigenous knowledge in the Academy. So Aimee and I work in the STEM portfolio. My role was focused on supporting the science faculty, and Aimee's role was focused on supporting the medicine, dentistry, and health sciences faculty. And although there are some synergies, there are also some differences. Science has a really large cohort of 15,000 students, and for the library to support these students in developing their information literacy needs, we have to have a scalable approach. For a first-year undergraduate subject, there are over 3,000 students with 125 tutorials, so it's not feasible for us to teach in person. The libraries worked really closely with the teaching staff, and we came up with a plan, which was that we train the tutors who use our Canvas module to teach the students. So the module is therefore really critical to the success of this train the trainer model.
A key focus for the Medicine, Dentistry and Health Sciences Library team, referred to in short as MDHS, is the high level of support we provide for graduate research students and postgraduate coursework students. This support consists of online and in-person teaching, online modules, and individual consults. The team held 490 consults in 2024. Because the University of Melbourne is a research-intensive university, every coursework student in MDHS does a research project, with many ending up as a published systematic or scoping review. Canvas modules are essential tools to provide students with point-of-need resources and to also ensure that individual consults don't end up being used as tutorials.
Yeah. There is an important part of accessibility that deals with providing accurate heading structures, alternative text to images, and prescribed levels of colour contrast. We're not going to focus on the nitty-gritty of this for a few reasons. The heading structure and navigation is created and tested by our uni's learning environments team. This team conducts testing with groups such as screen reader users.
There are many tools out there to help with auditing these important issues, but there's a lot more to accessibility. Canvas has a great tool called You Do It, which runs a report on your subjects and allows you to correct errors one by one, such as missing alt text in images within the tool. We can see a screenshot here where there's missing alt text. Today, we're going to share our experience of some ideas we were not as aware of, positioning ourselves as very much new to the space and not living with a disability or condition that affects information access.
Yeah. We're going to do this by showcasing the STEM Canvas template that we created. The template has both individual style elements, so for example, an empty emphasis box, or whole modules complete with examples and activities that can be tweaked or used as is.
So here's a screenshot of an example of a complete module, and that's the first page in the module.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some examples. On the left side of the slide, you'll see what we've done in the past, and on the right, our new template where we have focused on improving accessibility. Content and expression is an area that we really worked hard on, and we worked very collaboratively. We bounced around lots of ideas about how to make the message clear and succinct to avoid jargon. We didn't consider that some people might find idioms confusing. So, for example, start with a big picture. And we tried to avoid all library jargon. For example, not saying explicitly Boolean, but rather connect search terms.
Instead, we used short sentences and plain English. There are many ways to explain complex ideas in a simple manner, so this will be a continuing focus and an ongoing conversation.
Sure will. There may be terms that need emphasis, but this should be done by structuring content and not relying on modifying the text. So that means not using italics, not underlining, and not using all caps. This is particularly important for users who have dyslexia, users with low vision, or people who use screen readers.
In our new template, key points are highlighted by the heading structures, which you can see in the screenshot. Everything is aligned to the left for ease of reading, and importantly, a reduction in the amount of content on the page means key points aren't buried.
Mm-hmm.
Another approach to page structure in order to highlight important points is breaking up blocks of text with video and emphasis boxes. If coded correctly with headings, this is helpful for both users who prefer visual information and people who are navigating the page with screen readers.
Mm-hmm. You can see in our before example that a lot of colour has been used, even though the colours do not convey meaning and they are within the contrast guidelines. The amount of colour here may be overwhelming.
In the example from the new template, we have used a bright colour in the graphic. However, the number of colours and the amount of colour on one page is limited. Emphasis box types are mostly grey, but we did use colour for activities and research project tips boxes. But all boxes have a descriptive heading and icon, so the meaning is not solely conveyed by the colour.
Yeah, and this is something in the past that we found that we did quite a bit. Here are two examples where meaning is conveyed solely with colour. So in the first, different types of search terms are indicated by colour, and in the second, colour is used to indicate different elements of a reference.
Here's another example of an emphasis box where we have a coloured warning icon. The contrast is sufficient for those who don't distinguish different colours, and the word warning is included in the heading text. When designing the template, we tried to consider multiple information access needs. So some people prefer information in audio or video format. They find that a great way to learn. Subtitles and transcripts are needed of the video and audio are available for those who need them. And it's best practice to make those transcripts available that are easily read by screen readers. So this means text within the web page using headings rather than a PDF. And finally, we need to ensure that any visual-only content that appears in the video is described adequately by the narrator.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. To wrap up, we'd like to go over some limitations and future opportunities for our template project. First, a key limitation was a lack of development or usability testing with relevant groups. We're hoping that in 2026, so next year, now that we're rolling the template out to students and graduate researchers, that we will have the opportunity to conduct surveys. We'll ask our users how they interact with the content to test to see if key messages are getting through. Another limitation is ourselves. We do not have formal training, but we're definitely going to continue to utilise professional development opportunities and networks at the uni. And yeah, we're going to plan to keep on learning and improving the template.
So here's a selection of resources we used to develop the templates and references for this presentation. We followed the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. There's a summary available at that w3.org website you might be familiar with. Another resource that we found useful was a list of H5P activities and their related accessibility issues. We found the Vision Australia blog easy to read as newcomers. The blog contains tips and advice on accessibility for blind and low vision users. And finally, the UK government created a series of accessibility posters, and we used these to structure our do's and don'ts in this presentation. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ellen and Aimee, for sharing your inclusive resource with us. Unfortunately, Dominique and Cait had to leave us, so all the question will be for you, Ellen and Aimee. We did have some coming through, and the first one was, what was the biggest win you saw after removing library jargon?
I can speak for this. I do a lot of my teaching in the undergraduate space, especially in first years. And I think librarians, we're very used to assuming knowledge without realizing. So I think keeping it really simple and thinking about our users was, I could see that students change in how they could sort of understand what I was saying. So yeah, that was a quick, big win in that, and using simple language.
Yeah, because Ellen uses the templates to teach face-to-face, so rather than PowerPoint slides.
Yeah.
So does that mean you saw like a change, that the students actually noticed a change? It wasn't like just something that sort of was quietly happening in the background and reduced friction. It was visible to you?
Yeah, I think so. And like the tutors in the 3,000 plus subject, which is an incredible number of students, I think it's the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. I think there are 90 tutors who support that. They reported back that with the new template, they just the students enjoyed using it more. They enjoyed rolling it out. It was more intuitive. It's hard to get an exact. Yeah, I think it's working.
Yeah, I suppose those specifics we're hoping to gather with a bit more kind of knowledge from getting feedback from cohorts.
We still haven't done, but that's next year's plan.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Ellen and Aimee. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave the Q&A there, and so we can have time for a short break. Thank you, Dominique and Cait, who are not here anymore, but they might listen to the recording, and Ellen and Aimee. So we'll have a 5-minute break, and then my colleague Marcus Chester, liaison librarian at Federation University, will meet us on the other side of it at 3 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and that is 2 p.m. for those in Queensland. And see you then.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you've had time to have a bit of a stretch and step away from your device, as we've got plenty more in store for you in the next bit. So we're going to head straight to the moment that a lot of people have been waiting for, the crowning of the winner of the Raven Mascot competition. The CRIG Seminar Working Group we've been delighted by a lot of the creativity in the seminar community, and we've seen so many great Ravens in different settings that embody the Open Doors, Open Minds seminar theme. You will have seen them on our social media contributions. So we're going to now share a slideshow with one Raven per slide, with the creator's statement on each of the slides. This will give you a chance to read the statements for yourself. And then with the final slides, we'll have all the Ravens on them and will allow you to vote on your favorite. So we have 5 entries this year, all with unique takes on the Open Doors, Open Minds theme. In addition to the ones on the screen, you can see all the slides on the menti.com link that it should be coming into the chat very shortly. And using the code 380692228, you will be able to access the voting. So hopefully that's coming into the chat right now. There it is. Thanks, Sarah. So you will need all those details to vote. So and shall we start the Ravens, Sarah? So the voting should be open now. Let us know in the chat if you can't access it, and we'll be able to troubleshoot. So. And just remember, as we're reading these, that all Ravens are beautiful, but we are looking for the Raven that speaks most to you. So we have seen a lot of tremendous creativity, and personally, I'm quite jealous having no talent in craft. So I will live vicariously through these contributions and enjoy them myself. So.
I thought I'd mention as well that you might not be able to vote until we get to the very last slide, so that everyone has seen all the Ravens. It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest, you can't vote until you've seen everyone.
It's exactly like the Eurovision Song Contest. Heart is racing already in anticipation of which Raven will be crowned the champion of this year's seminar. And they are off and racing. Now, there can only be one winner today, but in a more broader sense, we are all winners for learning so much more about ravens through our social media posting. So the raven in your heart is the true winner of today, but in a more accurate and literal sense, there can only be one winner because we only had budget for one trophy. So we are... Oh, we're getting pretty tied up there. So do keep the votes coming in. Hopefully we don't have a tie because, as I said, budget was tied this year. So
we have one trophy.
We have one trophy. So
maybe we'll have to cut it in half.
Yeah. Yeah. Now what are we going to do? We need one more vote.
I'm sure we can probably stretch it to a double if we have to.
We can, absolutely.
Yeah, I love them all, Jenny. That's what Marcus said. They're all in your hearts.
All right, I think Sarah can see if there's any sort of more votes coming in. Are we looking at a tie, or is
I think we've got a winner. I think we've got a winner. I think we have to call it while we're ahead.
All righty. So is it official? Are we calling it for the all right, is voting officially closed, Sarah? Can we get a confirmation?
Yes, Marcus, we can have a confirmation. Voting has now closed.
Voting has now closed. So thank you so much, everyone who contributed to the Raven competition. All righty. So Alan the Raven has officially won. We will be... Sorry, we'll be reaching out to the winner after the webinar to arrange delivery of the coveted trophy, and we will you will see the details are published on the on our LinkedIn for the seminar this year. So thank you so much for everyone who voted, everyone who entered. This has been an enjoyable part of the seminar, but we are going to get back to the final presentation. So I would like to hand the reins over to our outgoing CRIG Seminar Working Group Chair to do the honours of introducing our final speaker today. Thanks, Ramona Naker, Program Delivery Lead, Gen I Framework Activation Project Lead at Deakin University, amongst many other things that you do. Over to you, Ramona, to close the seminar today with the final presentation. Thanks, Ramona.
Thank you so much, Marcus. And yeah, thank you everybody for contributing to the Raven competition, and well done, Alan the Raven, as well. So to conclude the 2025 CRIG Seminar, we're going to hear from a keynote on a topic that is very close to my heart, which is a decolonised library. So for this, we are joined by Professor Kathomi Gatwiri, who is the Head of Discipline and Programme Director at the College of Education, Psychology and Social Work at Flinders University. So Kathomi is the immediate past president of the peak body Australian Women and Gender Studies Association, and also a practicing psychotherapist. Kathomi is one of Australia's leading Afro-diasporic scholars whose award-winning interdisciplinary research investigates the intersecting topics of racial trauma, belonging, Blackness and migranthood. She's the founder and director of Healing Together, which is a service that provides accessible, culturally sensitive therapeutic support for racially minoritized people impacted by trauma. I also just want to say a reminder that this session will not be recorded.